Okay, to start with, you want to go to Edit, Preferences, and have this window pop up. Then in Add-ons, make sure that FBX is enabled and Rigify is enabled. So both these boxes need to be ticked. Then in Interface, you might want to turn off Auto Perspective, and might also want to bump up the scale a little, but that's just a personal preference. And then you can save these preferences. And that's all you need to do there. With the cursor in the main scene, hit the A key to select everything, then the X key and delete all. Next, we set the unit scale in units. Alright, you have to click on this little icon here, and then in units, set the unit scale to 0.01. You might be tempted to set the length to centimeters because that's supposed to be the same thing, but it does not work and it'll just cause a lot of problems. Now with the cursor in the main scene again, I'm going to use the mouse wheel to pull back a little, and you can see that our grid is being cut off, and if you bring in a model that's large enough, even the model will get cut off because the camera can't see far enough. So I will use the N key to bring this view up and set the N to 50 meters. Don't forget the M at the end, and that gives our grid back. Next, we go to File, Import, FBX, go to wherever the mannequin is, and select the file. Now I'm going to leave all of these options as they are, and then in Armatures, we have to select Automatic Bone Orientation. Now, just to show you what happens if you don't do this, I'm just going to import it as it is, and as you can see, all of the bones are sticking straight out of the mannequin's mesh, and we don't want that to happen. We want them to point at each other. So I'm going to hit Ctrl Z to undo that. Go back to File, Import, FBX, pick the mannequin again, Armatures, Automatic Bone Orientation. Okay, and now this is what we want to have. Okay, if you look on these icons here, we have to select this one. That represents the armature. And then if we go into display, we can hit in front so we can see all of the bones through the mesh, and we can hit names to see what they are called also. Now you can see they are properly pointing at each other, and that's what we want, but there is still a problem. As you can see, this foot bone, if I just turn the names on, foot L does not match, does not point at the toes, and the toes don't really stick out either. But we can fix that. But the rest of the skeleton comes in exactly like we need it to be. Alright, now you see this highlight, this orange color and the yellow color. Yellow means it's selected, but if you see an orange color, it means that multiple objects are selected, or one of them is called the active object, but that's really just another discussion for another day. What we want to do is fix this bone so it points properly. I'm going to select the armature with the left mouse button click, and that actually selected the mesh instead, so we'll try that again, and now we have the armature. Then I will go here and go to edit mode, and you can also use the tab key to switch between object and edit modes. Now I will select Alt A to deselect everything. Then I will click on this large bone here with the left mouse button to select it and hit the H key. Alright, so that hides it. Then I can bring it back with Alt H, but for now I just want it out of the way, so highlight it, H to hide, and you can do that with any of these bones. Now I will hit 5 on the numpad to go into orthographic view. I just find this easier to work with. Then I will click on this little icon here. Okay, that's the toolbar for whatever current mode you're in or whatever current operations you can do, and I will just turn on X mirror. So when we work on this side of the armature, the other side gets automatically updated. Click on this circular end with the left mouse button to select it, then Shift S to bring up this pie menu. Cursor to selected. Alright, that brings your cursor down to the bone. Select the other bone's pointy end or circular end, and then Shift S to then go selection to cursor. That kind of connects these bones. Then I will select the foot bone itself and set the roll to -10. Now, how do I know it's -10? Because I've done this many times and I kind of figured it out. It was -10, so that's what it always is. Now I select the toe bone and I will change this drop down to 3D cursor. Okay, this selects the point of rotation, the origin around which the rotation will occur. So because our 3D cursor is over here and that's where we want to rotate the bone from, then I will hit the R key to rotate, and then without doing anything else, directly hit the X key to lock the axis, and I will hit -90, right? And if you see on this corner on the top left side of the screen, you can see what value you have entered and along which axis the rotation is occurring. Then I will hit the Enter key to finalize everything. One more thing we can do is click on this and hit the G key to grab it, then the Y key to lock the Y axis, and just move it back a little so it's more reasonably placed. I can look around the scene with the middle mouse button clicked. Just click and drag and you can look around, and the mouse wheel itself will pull back and pull in. I will hit Alt A to deselect everything and then go back to object mode, and that brings back all of the hidden bones, and basically our feet are fixed now. You might notice the armature is still selected even though we hit Alt A to deselect everything. That's because that was in edit mode. This is now in object mode. So I'm going to hit Alt A to deselect everything again, Alt A. And then if we come down here, you can see that the cursor is still on the toe bone. So I'm going to hit Shift S and then cursor to world origin, because we're going to bring in the new meta rig and we want it to spawn at the correct point. Now, before we bring in the meta rig, I want to click on this scene collection, right click, new, and create a new collection. Now you can treat these collections just as folders, though in the back end they're quite literally Python collections, but you can treat them as folders. So I'm going to select this new collection, make sure it's highlighted, bring the cursor back into the scene, Shift A, armature, and then human meta rig. Now nothing seems to have happened. That's because at the start of the video we set the unit scale to 0.01, so the meta rig is right now just tiny little speck. So I'm going to hit the S key and then 100, and you can see again in this top left corner what you typed in, and then I will hit the Enter key and set the scale like so. Whatever object is currently selected will be listed here, and you can see its details in this panel. Now we know that the meta rig is selected, and we can see that it is scaled in 100 in each direction, so we don't want that to happen. So what we're going to do is bring the cursor into the scene, go Control A, and then apply the scale. And now the scale is 111. Rotations are all 0, and the location is also at the board origin. So these values are kind of important to us to make this work properly for basically all of our objects. Now we have to match the meta rig's pose to that of the mannequin, and normally that would involve a lot of going into edit mode and rotating, scaling, grabbing, moving, but we're not going to do any of that. Okay, I'm going to go to scripting on this top here panel, open, go to Uefy, the Uefy script, open the text block, then I'll put the cursor on this bar, use the mouse wheel to scroll to the end, and then just hit run script. Then I can go back to layout. Now what this does is to add a new panel to this armature information, armature tab. Okay, so again, click on this running icon thing to go to the armature data, and then use the mouse wheel to scroll down, and you'll see this Uefy script panel. Now what these options are, we can get into more detail. For now, just know that we have to select root here, What's root is the name of the armature for the mannequin. That is what it was called when we imported it in. And the other object that we have is the meta rig. So set both of these to root, set this to meta rig, which it should already be. And then what we need to do is to pre-process the mannequin's bones so the script will understand what it has to do. So just make sure that the type is epic skeleton and hit this setup character bone names. Now you'll see something happen here, and what happened is that the names of all of the armature bones have been changed. So we do this so the script will understand what it can do with the armature. After that, it's easy. Just hit pose meta rig, and you'll see that the meta rig has disappeared, only it has not disappeared if I go here and click on this little eye icon to hide the mannequin. You'll see that the bones are now matching the mannequin exactly. I'll bring back just the body, and then I will go to I'll select the meta rig, go to the armature panel, scroll up, put it in front, and you'll see that the bones are perfectly aligned. So this is the epic A pose for the limbs only. That's important to know. Okay, I'm going to hit the 1 key to go into the front view, and you'll see that the limbs are perfectly placed from the shoulder to the fingertip and from the legs to the toes. Now the spine, you have to do this manually, and that's really easy to fix. I'm going to hide the body of the mannequin like so and bring back its armature. Then with the cursor in the scene, I will hit Alt A to deselect everything, and then hit A again to reselect everything on the screen. With both objects selected, I will go into edit mode like so, and hit Alt A again to deselect everything in edit mode. Now with both of these objects in edit mode, I can select bones in either of them. I will hit the 1 key on the numpad, go into the front view, pull back a little with the mouse wheel, and then I will hit the B key to box select everything. And I'll just drag a box like so, and the H key to hide that, and then box select everything again. Drag another box like so, H key to hide that, select this bone, left click, and then hide that. And now we are left with just the 2 spines. I will select the meta rig here and turn names on for this thing as well, so we can see names of both of these spines. Now we can't just take bones from the meta rig and put them directly on bones from the original armature. Rigify requires the spine to be connected, and if it's not, the rig will fail. Right? So if you see here, see this bone going here, it's not connected to that bone, and this bone is not connected to that bone, and these two are also not starting and stopping at the same point. So this is the original armature, whereas this here is the meta rig, and every bone starts where the last bone ends, right? And so we need to maintain that. Now what we can do is just place things approximately in the correct location, and it actually works out really well. Now I'm going to put the cursor on one of these bones and hit the L key to select everything. Then I will hit the 3 key on the numpad to see the side view, and then I'll hit the G key to grab everything, and then just use the mouse to move things around. Now I'm going to match the base of the neck to the base of the neck for the original armature. And then I will hit left click to finalize that. Now we just need to match up these, we need to match the head of the bones to roughly their counterparts location. So the head is basically where the bone will start, and the tail is where it ends. So you can see these location values if you want numbers, not just a visual approximation. I will select this bone, right? Just the circular end, not the whole bone. G key, and then the Z key to lock the Z axis, and then just move it up to roughly be equal to this, right? Now you'll see that the other end of the bone does not really match the other end of the bone in the original armature, but that doesn't matter. That transform's calculated at the head. So just match them up roughly. G key, Z, move it up, and move this up, and this. Yeah, this doesn't really matter, because the spine, for the spine, things are inverted. For the spine, what matters is the tail and not the head. Now what we're looking for here is really just hit the 3 key on the numpad to bring this back. What we're looking for is just, well, basically the straightest spine possible, because that's what Rigify works with best. Maybe not a completely straight spine, but straightest it can be with a little bend. So let's just try to get a better position for this. Grab this, and I'm just going to use the mouse and move this there, right? Move this there, move it underneath. It needs to really go. This one's a tough one, I think. Grab this and just move this over there. Move this again, like so, and make sure you're not messing around with the original armature. So keep an eye on these labels here. We want just the meta rig. Grab and, well, alright, to be perfectly honest, you're going to have to figure this one out for yourself. Just experiment with it and you'll see what you need to do. Alt-A to deselect, but the good news is that the meta rig is reusable. It has a non-destructive workflow, and we'll look at that more some later. Now I'm going to select the head bone and just grab the whole thing and make it match this, and then grab the top, G, lock the axis to Z, and then just move it down somewhat. Okay, so yeah, close enough, right? Alt-H, bring everything back. Alt-A, deselect everything. Go back into object mode. Alt-A, deselect everything again. Right, bring back the body. Click on this little eye icon and hide the armature. And okay, we missed one little bit here. Hit the 1 key to go into the front view. Zoom in here. Go into, select the armature first. This is the meta rig. And edit key, edit mode. Select this bone. Go to the tool panel here. You might need to use the mouse scroll up to bring this into view, and then hit the x-axis mirror so we can work on both of these bones. I'm going to use the G key, grab it and put it there. Put this, grab this end, put it over there like so, and this end, put it over there like so. This needs to be the size of the foot, essentially. Right, select this, and I'm just going to 0 these values manually. 0 this and 0 that. Unfortunately, it seems that if I was to editing these values directly doesn't seem to work with Xmitter. So go to the other bone, select this bit, and you want to 0 this again and 0 that. Now I will hit the 3 key to get into side view, and then I'll just select this bone, G key, grab it, lock it to the y-axis, move it back to the end, and then just this circular bit, grab y-axis, lock it, and then just move it back into place. Now what you want to do is put this bone, grab Y right on the point of impact. Okay, I'm just going to move it out of the way for a second here. Let it go. See this bit here where it meets the ground? That's the point of impact. If this was a female character, if it was a heel or something, this point might be further, right? So where you place this bone doesn't depend anything on any other bone, just where the actual mesh will connect with the ground, right? So grab Y, put it right over there. And one key, see that everything is in place, and seems fine. And I think we are done with the meta rig. Alt-A to deselect, go back into object mode. Now we need to disconnect the mannequin from its armature. So I will select the mannequin's mesh, go to the modifiers tab panel, and apply the armature modifier. Then I will select the object panel, this icon, and go into relations and disconnect it from its parent armature. Right, so now the mesh is basically freestanding, and I can just drag this over here. Well, I could drag it over there anyway, but now it is truly disconnected, and we don't need any of this anymore. So just the mesh and the meta rig. With the meta rig selected, you can then select this armature panel, right, meta rig object, and scroll down and just hit generate rig. Now this button is from Rigify itself, and it might take a moment to build the rig, but not too long usually. And there's our rig. Okay, so we can now hide the meta rig, but do not delete it because we're going to need it later. And we can go into pose mode, and with the rig selected, then we can also put it in front and maybe even enable names, or maybe not, it's a bit too much. Alright, now we go into object mode, and I will select the mesh, left click on it, and then I will shift left click on the rig itself. Right, this is the rig, not the meta rig. We turned that invisible for now. Then I will hit Control P and select armature deform, not with automatic fades or not with empty groups, just simple armature deform. This is going to parent the mesh to the rig, but if we go into pose mode, we'll see that still it doesn't do anything just yet. And before we pose the rig or interact with it in any way, you want to scroll down here and select individual origins. So in the armature panel, just scroll down to the bottom to build Unreal Skeleton, give it a moment, and then hit weight paint once. Alright, now since this character was imported and it already had weight painting, those weights have now been transferred to the rig, so we don't have to manually weight paint anything. So this rig should be functional now. I'm going to select this control here, hit the G key, and you can see you can move the character around. Now Rigify has quite a lot of controls on it, and we can check that out in another video, but basically that's the whole process. Now let's take this to the engine. I will go back into object mode, I will select the rig, and then rename this to armature. And you have to do this to export it properly for UE4. Okay, now I will select the mesh and then shift left click on the rig to have both of these objects selected, and then you can just go export FBX, set the file name, and for main you want to do selected objects, right? You may have to click on this, and then in armature you want to turn off add leaf bones and you want to turn on add deform bones, and we just hit export FBX. So let's take this up in the engine now. Import, find the file, open, import it as it is, don't change any of the options. And now we can confirm that the skeleton is in fact exactly what we want it to be and not the mess that Rigify would output on its own. Now we can just retarget this. Retarget manager, select the humanoid rig, and because we chose our names, well, the UE5 built the skeleton in a way that most of this should already be set. right? Except for maybe one thing. The head is called head 01, and show advanced, and everything here should be properly set, including the IKs. And what we can do now is set the preview mesh pose, apply to asset, and modify. We don't need to modify the pose. Just save everything. Close this, close that, save all of this. Then in character, find the original that came with Unreal Engine and set the select rig to select humanoid. You want to save this, close that, find its animations, right? And let's see if we can retarget these to our new character, right? The pose will match automatically. Nothing to do here. Assets, UEM. Can we make a new folder? Okay, we can. Anim, and OK, and retarget. So now we have these retarget animations, and everything is going to work just fine, right? Now the difference between having this and just the originals are that we have a rigged character in Blender now. So if there is some missing pose or something that I want to do, basically if I want to improve my animations or add more animations, I now have that option, whereas previously I was just stuck with whatever was available. And the only other option I had was spending thousands of dollars on something like Maya that I really can't afford. So it opens up a lot of options. And what's more, this process will work on any of the animations in the Unreal Engine marketplace for the epic skeleton. Plus you can now use Rigify to create and then retarget to the original very accurately new animations that can possibly also go on the marketplace. So it's really good to have that option. Uefy Script is available for sale on my website. There will be a link in the description. The script can save you hours of time per character. And if you're not talking the whole while, the actual time from import to a fully rigged character ready for taking back to the engine is something like 2 minutes at most. Now, I don't have a Patreon or something, but I would ask that you consider purchasing this script to support its continued development. And we're not done. Now, there is a lot more that we haven't talked about here. And if, like me, you're using Fuse CC or Mixamo animations, you're going to want to watch my other video where I will rig a Fuse character with the same script. And there's a whole lot of other things that we haven't talked about yet. So there will be more videos on that. So be sure to subscribe to this channel. And thanks for watching.